Whatever happened to fair use?
At the beginning of 2015, Rock Band and Guitar Hero were pretty much presumed dead. Guitar Hero had finished up way back in 2011, and Rock Band had released its final piece of official DLC in 2013, and both were quickly forgotten about. Honestly, it's no wonder why. Throughout 2008 and 2009, the market was flooded with new music rhythm games. Guitar Hero Van Halen, Guitar Hero Metallica, Guitar Hero Smash Hits, Guitar Hero World Tour, Guitar Hero 5, Band Hero, Guitar Hero On Tour, Guitar Hero On Tour Modern Hits, Guitar Hero On Tour Decades, AC/DC Rock Band, The Beatles Rock Band, Lego Rock Band, Green Day Rock Band Unplugged, Rock Revolution, Power Gig Rise of the Sixth String. The market was oversaturated to burning point. Honestly, everyone was waiting for some silly spin-off like Triangle Hero or Mariachi Band or something. But early in 2015, Rock Band announced a sequel to the beloved franchise, and Guitar Hero announced a sequel soon after, seemingly piggybacking off the hype of Rock Band. In October, the two games finally released, to somewhat of a mixed reaction, in all honesty. But what do I think, you ask? Oh, you're not asking that. Well, too bad, because you clicked on this video, so you're gonna hear me out whether you like it or not. I've been playing rhythm games for years. I play expert on all instruments, and I usually play Rock Band every second day of my life. Rock Band 3, in particular, is one of my favorite games of all time. So of course, I jumped at the chance to play a brand new Rock Band game, and, well, Mum got me Guitar Hero Live for Christmas. Thanks, Mum! Now, it's time to see which of these age classics has come out on top, and which has fallen from grace, in the ultimate showdown of Guitar Hero Live versus Rock Band 4! I need a girlfriend. For this video, I'll be judging both games in several different categories: gameplay and concept, graphics and presentation, on-disc setlist, career modes, DLC, and modes and features. And then we'll tally it all up and see which is the better game, I guess. That's how fucking tally works. Let's start with the obvious. These aren't the same games anymore. Rock Band 3 and Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock, the last games in their respective franchises, both allowed players to use guitar, bass, drums, or vocals, though Rock Band 3 also offered keyboards. However, while Rock Band 4 offers up the core band experience, minus the keyboards, Guitar Hero Live offers only guitar this time around, though vocals are available but can't be played on their own, so they're more of an afterthought. In that sense, Rock Band is aiming for familiarity, and probably feels more like evolution rather than a revolution. All of your old wireless instruments are compatible, save for a few outliers and ion instruments, and all old DLC is transferable, assuming you bought it on the same console family. So Rock Band 4 is well and truly a sequel. Guitar Hero Live, on the other hand, is a full-on reboot. And thankfully they didn't just call it Guitar Hero. Ugh. Old instruments are not compatible, and neither is old DLC. This is because the game uses a new guitar. Go on to the old 5-coloured button configurations of yore. Instead, you'll be using 2 rows of 3 frets. No, there aren't just 3 buttons. God, I see this asked on every Guitar Hero Live video on YouTube, I swear. There's not much to talk about in terms of Rock Band's gameplay. It's the same thing you played years ago. Notes come flying at you and you gotta hit the corresponding fret, pad, or pitch in time with the music. There have been a few things added to the gameplay to add a bit of variety and allow the player to express themselves. Developers' words. The most prominently advertised one is freestyle solos. When the solo comes up, you can play the notes normally like a filthy casual, or you can mash out your own tunes. Different prompts show up on the screen telling you what kind of fretting you should be doing, and if you do it correctly, it'll actually sound pretty awesome. Yeah, okay, that was a little rocky, but I'm stuck with one of those old Logitech Guitar Hero axes, and they don't have solo buttons. But if you have a Rock Band Stratocaster, you'll actually be able to pull off some pretty tasty riffs. There's also dynamic drum fills, which grabs a random fill from a pool of fills and sticks it in the song, and hitting it activates overdrive. Sometimes they work well, other times they completely break the pacing of the song. I prefer the other two methods, hitting the original notes or just playing whatever you want. Of course, even the bassist gets in on the action with a brand new... Oh, there's nothing new for bassists. Oh well, who cares, am I right? And finally, freestyle vocals. This is probably my favourite so far. I'm not very good at it yet, but if you've got a keen ear, you can score points by ignoring the actual vocals and singing different notes, so long as they're still in key. It's quite satisfying and makes you feel like maybe you should do that X Factor audition.
You're through to Hollywood.
Nevertheless, even with these new features, Rock Band 4 still plays very similarly to rhythm games of old. Guitar Hero Live, on the other hand, tries to reinvent the instrument-based music rhythm genre by getting rid of drums and bass and focusing purely on the new revamped guitar. Gameplay is still technically the same, you're still hitting buttons and strumming and shit, but obviously what makes it feel fresh is the new guitar peripheral. It's got 2 rows of 3 frets, a layout that forces the player to more closely mimic the fingering positions of an actual guitar player, which of course means you're gonna have to relearn how to play the guitar all over again. It takes a little getting used to. I had a hard time remembering which color was which row of frets at first, but after a while, it clicks. Suddenly you're hitting notes without thinking about it as much. Some chords come naturally, and you're even hitting strings of hammer-ons and pull-offs that transfer between 2 strings. If you went into Rock Band 4 playing on Expert, you might say, yeah, I still remember how to play, cool. But with Guitar Hero Live, while some skills are transferable from the original 5-button guitar, it's still a whole new learning process, and finally having it click is a really satisfying feeling. However, Guitar Hero gets marked down because it doesn't have drums. Sorry, dude. Presentation-wise, Rock Band 4 is still very much the same. Pick a song, then watch your virtual avatars rock out on stage while you mash buttons for 4 minutes. The menus are a lot cleaner looking, though there is less information shown on the song selection screen compared to Rock Band 3. Showing the length of a song would go a long way in improving the interface. The note highway is also a little different, but is obviously still the same in the end. It's actually kinda nice to look at, which, believe it or not, is an unpopular opinion. Many people prefer the note highways from Rock Band 3, which I guess makes sense since hopos are a little easier to tell apart from normal notes. Character models are kinda improved. Obviously they've benefited from the next-gen lighting and texture effects. In fact, the lighting effects in venues in general are pretty impressive. But is it me, or has lip-syncing gotten worse? Like, it was already pretty in Rock Band 3.
I can keep no rhythm with no no metronome.
Thanks for that, Nick. But here it seems to have taken a back seat. Understandable, considering they have to do lip sync for every single song that makes it into the game, but it is still noticeable. Overall, not much else to comment about. Guitar Hero Live, on the other hand, has seen a complete overhaul. Previous iterations had gritty menus and layouts reminiscent of artwork featured on metal album covers and stuff, but here, the interface is simpler, cleaner, and much more appealing to all the kids and hipsters. I'm actually a big fan of it. It's easy to read, it's responsive, and all that useless crap that no one cares about that's peppered into every IGN review these days.
7.8 out of 10, too much indie rock.
Notes come flying down from the top of the screen as usual, but with only 3 lanes instead of 5. A black note means you have to hit the corresponding note on the top row of frets, and a white note means a note on the bottom row. A long white bar denotes an open strum. It takes some getting used to, but you eventually get used to it, though I do wish there was an option to speed up the note highway, as sometimes it's a bit too slow, and it's almost impossible to hit notes on an offbeat sometimes. On the harder difficulties it's easier to read, but the option to adjust the speed would be great. But the game actually uses FMV cutscenes in place of stupid computer graphics. Yep, it's 1992 all over again. The aim of these live action backgrounds is to put you into the shoes of the guitar player and make you feel like a rock star. Though, at least with my experience with it, it doesn't really work that well. The venues look fantastic, definitely, but everything is just so corny.
Are you ready to go? Okay, they're on their way.
Breaker, this is Space Cowboy to Ziggy Stardust. The placenta has fallen to the floor. I repeat, the placenta has fallen to the floor. Over. It's sickening. When you do good, your bandmates crowd around you and start giving you praise and, you know, you're doing good, man, keep it up. Is that really how a band acts on stage? Likely not. However, when you start to fail, the video shifts, and suddenly, everyone is booing you. Your bandmate's looking at you going, what the fuck, man? It's just a good Charlotte song, step your fucking game up! People in the crowd even hold up signs attaining to your complete terribleness. Fucking really? Who brings a sign to a concert with insults sprawled across it? Look, we haven't even started playing yet, and this guy's got his "You're bad" sign ready to go for when I start failing. Seriously!
Preemptive strike.
Cool, you go, girl. Good luck.
Wow, okay, I mean, they're just man boobs. I mean, alright, I'm going, jeez. Again, the game does this to make you really feel like you're a part of the band, and when the crowd starts screaming at you for being shit, it's supposed to make you nervous and tense, but again, it didn't really work on me. If anything, I did it on purpose to see what sort of reaction I would get from the crowd and my fellow strangely dressed bandmates. Just chill, bro, I got it. So, points go to Guitar Hero Live for this one. Rock Band's interface and graphics are simultaneously improved and have been made slightly worse, while Guitar Hero's presentation is pretty much at its peak, despite a few nuances. It's corny, but it's still a lot of fun to watch. Now for the set lists. We'll start with rock bands, and it's time for another unpopular opinion. I really like the set list. The complaints towards it generally boil down to the songs being B-side material from bigger acts, such as Foo Fighters' Feast in the Famine, Lynyrd Skynyrd's That Smell, and A Passage to Bangkok by Rush. On top of that, there's a lot of harmonics bands that contain members of the dev team, or just lesser known acts. Seriously, who the hell are Sly Digs? I will admit that it's a weaker setlist in comparison to, well, pretty much every rock band before it, but I'm actually really digging it so far. Part of the reason I enjoy rock bands so much is because I'm always finding new music to add to my own ever-growing collection. My favourite so far being St. Vincent's Birth in Reverse, Judas Priest's Halls of Valhalla, Eddie Japan's Albert, and White Denim's At Night in Dreams.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I am Electric by Heaven's Basement, but I'm too lazy to re-record my lines, so fuck.
And while some might be turned off by the lesser known offerings by bigger artists, I think it's a great approach. Earlier music rhythm games were criticised for using obvious choices all the time, so it's really cool to see Harmonix try something a little different with their offering. There's plenty of metal, some great classic rock, and even a few highly requested artists that have never appeared in a rock band title before, namely Elvis Presley, Scorpions, Four Non Blondes, Imagine Dragons, Cake, Van Morrison, Van Halen, and even U2. Heck, we even got some noise rock. It's very noisy. Rock Band 4 is lightly peppered with a few of those new poppy indie tracks that you'll often hear in car commercials and most ads on YouTube.
What the hell is Tongue Tied? I don't know this song. It's some indie rock bullshit, isn't it?
Though at least they're fun to play and mixed up amongst a ton of older and more difficult tracks. This is something that Guitar Hero Live kind of screws up. Guitar Hero Live only comes with 42 tracks on disc, compared to Rock Band 4's 65 songs. 42 tracks is pretty piss weak to begin with, but when you actually look at the songs on offer, you realise that it's filled with almost nothing but indie rock, pop rock, and metalcore. 31 of these songs are from the year 2010 and beyond, and a meager 3 of these tracks are from before the year 2000. Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who, Tie Your Mother Down by Queen, and Painted Black by the Rolling Stones. Which means that there isn't a single song representing the 80s or 90s. Heaven forbid you should be over the age of 30, because you probably won't know 3/4 of the songs available here. There are still some good songs depending on your taste. I actually kinda like all of this new metal post-hardcore stuff. So seeing King for a Day by Pierce the Veil was nice. There's a Rihanna song, California King Bed, which sucks ass, but the solo was actually kinda fun to play, which I didn't expect. Which is also the reaction I had to the Skrillex track, Bangarang, which has no place in the Guitar Hero title, but actually turned out to be a lot of fun to play. And I wouldn't necessarily be against more dubstep, honestly. But there is one single atrocity that ruins the whole set list. They had the gall to include I Will Wait by Mumford & Sons, one of the best folk songs I've ever heard, and then make us play the acoustic guitar instead of the fucking awesome banjo riff.
Shame on you.
Rock Band wins, but for the most part, which soundtrack appeals to you is purely subjective. For older and more challenging music, Rock Band is your choice, but if you're up to date with all the cool, hipster, car commercial music, swing on over to Guitar Hero. Now onto the career mode. Rock Band 4's career mode has been revamped and is way more fun compared to Rock Band 3's road challenges and spades and fucking whatever, man. The game centers around your band, in this case,
Mon Spaghetti.
and their journey from playing pub rock in a tavern to performing at a sold-out crowd at a massive concert in Paris, or ultimately becoming the world's best. Well, they imply that you're a band, but technically you're a cover band. Seriously, no one ever questions that Mon Spaghetti got their fame by performing 94% accurate renditions of Lives All Over You, now did they? The career mode then is a huge step up from Rock Band 3's pick some songs and get some achievements approach. Instead, it's very reminiscent of Rock Band 2's coveted career mode, which allowed you to travel to distant cities and countries by obtaining different managers, staff members, and modes of transportation, all of which were graciously gifted to you because you did okay playing Living on a Prayer. By the way, that song sucks. Just gonna say that, just gonna put that out there right now. That song fucking sucks. The key change at the end of the song is terrible.
Get on with it!
What's different is the amount of choice you're given. At certain points in the career, you're given 2 choices, one of which will offer more fans and a bit more freedom over the songs you can play, while the other offers more cash and gear, but you usually have to wear pre-selected outfits and play pre-existing set lists. It's really just a nice way of sifting through the game's set list and unlocking stuff, and thanks to Harmonix's kinda warped sense of humour, it's a lot of fun to go through with friends. On Guitar Hero Live, however, its career structure is very reminiscent of past Guitar Hero games. You'll go around to different venues and play pre-written set lists of 3 or 4 songs to make progress, and that's about it, really. There's cutscenes and characters, but you'll never remember any of them, despite the huge amount of effort that's been put into them. The songs aren't really sorted by difficulty either. Love Bites So do I. By Hailstorm is definitely one of the game's harder tracks, but it's available after only completing 2 gigs. Also, each song has a difficulty rating out of 5, so why are some of the easy sounding songs, like Ho Hey by the Lumineers, ranked in the second hardest difficulty? This really tickles my pickle. Overall, I think Rock Band wins this one, because not only is it longer and a little more engaging, but it also uses your DLC. Speaking of which, both games have a service that gives the player access to more songs, and both have their ups and downs. Rock Band uses the tried and true DLC store, which means you can go in, find a song, and buy it for $2. That song is then downloaded, added to your library, and is yours to keep forever. If you bought a song way back when you had Rock Band 1, 2, or 3, those songs will be immediately available for you to re-download, save for a few which aren't available yet due to licensing issues. If you exported songs from a previous title, they'll also be available soon, with Rock Band 3 already being available. But what really impressed me is the fact that they decided to go back and add harmonies to all pre-Rock Band 3 songs. Obviously the cost of buying songs starts to add up after a while, but you'll get to keep those songs for as long as you live. There's a great selection of DLC too. I'll leave some recommendations at the end of the video. Guitar Hero Live, once again, is doing things differently. DLC? Where we're gone, we don't need DLC, just microtransactions and day passes. See, Guitar Hero Live also has this new mode called Guitar Hero TV. In this mode, songs are played on rotation, much like a music video channel or a radio station. You can choose one of 2 different stations, which play different genres or decades at different times in the day, and just start playing. You'll also compete against 9 other people in asynchronous multiplayer, and coming out on top will earn you coins to buy stuff with, and status, which is just EXP. You can use coins to buy new note highways, which is a feature I wish Rock Band would consider to stop all the bitching about the new sparkly, bloomy note highways they're using. Coins will also get you plays, and you use a play every time you want to play a song on demand. I guess I'm kinda indifferent. I end up usually playing one of the music channels anyways, as they're a great way of discovering new music, plus you don't have to pause the action to select a new song. So far I think I've used 5 or so plays, and have about 40 in reserve, which is nice. But if you want to play a specific song and start practicing it, then you gotta keep using plays, and if you eventually run out, then you gotta start using microtransactions or grind on the music channels. And the microtransactions are bullshit. 100 plays cost 4,500 coins, which means you need to buy 6,900 coins in the store, which costs $26 Australian. $26 to play 100 songs is an absolute fucking ripoff, and I implore you, do not buy coins. And the one thing about using music videos in this mode is that not only does it limit the songs that can be chosen for the game, but that also means we get the music video versions and not the full album versions. Which means in some cases we're missing out on whole sections of songs. For example, in Hangar 18, the song stops right before the onslaught of awesome solos, and Disturbed's Down With The Sickness cuts out that whole abuse section, though that's probably a plus for some people. Guitar Hero TV has some interesting ideas and is pretty addictive, but ultimately Rock Band wins this one because not only can you play your songs however many times you like, but all of your old DLC is compatible. But don't write off Guitar Hero TV completely, because technically, all of its content is free. You're able to play around 300 extra songs for no added charges, which is pretty awesome. But ultimately you don't have a huge amount of control over what you play. I'd prefer having the DLC downloaded to my hard drive any day. Finally, let's discuss the different modes on offer, and what's been cut. Because, let's be honest here, both games came out in a fairly bare-bones state. Rock Band added a new career mode, freestyle modes, and the new player show mode, which allows bandmates to vote on which song they want to play next. This is actually a really cool mode because you aren't coaxed into playing the same 2 Motley Crue songs over and over again by your friend, Nick. It was a mistake buying that fucking album. Ugh. Anyway, player show avoids that. There's a bit of a weird design choice when multiplayer and overdrive carries over between songs, which means scores don't post to the leaderboard, so many people never ended up using player show mode. Thankfully that's getting fixed in the January update. Knowing me, it's probably already been fixed, long before I upload this video. There's also the new brutal mode, and this is the best thing to happen to Rock Band in years. Notes will only show up briefly before they fade away, just like your father did from your life when you were young. Don't give me that look, you're allowed to say nasty stuff like that if it happened to you too. Aw. I'm sorry, did I trigger your PTSD? I triggered mine too, man, I'm sorry! Let's try that one again. Notes will fade away, and you have to try and hit them using only your memory and sense of rhythm. Suddenly, songs that you never play because of how easy they are become fun again, and songs that you can finish with 100% accuracy are suddenly the hardest thing on the planet. It's only playable on expert difficulty, so it only really appeals to a small niche of players, but holy tartare sauce on a chicken nugget is it satisfying. Try it, it's actually pretty good. But, and oh my god, that's a big but. There's a lot of stuff missing from Rock Band 4. The most obvious omission is the lack of pro guitar and bass, and the complete omission of the keyboard instrument. As it turns out, very few people ever picked these things up. Plus, most keyboard songs were pretty boring to play, and as such, Rock Band reverted back to the original combination of guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. This renders some of its DLC a little hard to recommend, as it was based around the keyboard being the signature instrument. Case in point, the Billy Joel, Queen, and the Doors packs, as well as acts like Lady Gaga, ill, Cobra Starship, ill, and Rick Astley, double ill. Most of these aren't very fun to play on normal instruments. On top of that, some features have been dumbed down or cut entirely. For a game touting expression as one of its main gameplay elements, the character creator isn't all that expressive. I don't mind having to unlock clothes, but even basic haircuts are locked behind a pesky career progression system. Having said that, the characters do look great, as do the instruments and clothing. The one that affects me personally is the exclusion of practice mode. I used to love playing the drum solo on Opeth's Ghost of Perdition, but didn't have the patience to play through the entire 11-minute prog metal masterpiece sometimes. Unfortunately, now I have no choice, as there's no way to select a song, narrow it down to a specific section, and just practice it. Not many people use this feature, but it's one that I miss, though thankfully it is coming back in the future. There's also the omission of set lists, the Rock Band network, and detailed stats at the end of a song. No, wait, that got fixed. Thanks guys. At the very least, practice mode and set list have been promised to us. However, the one thing that has everyone in a tizzy is the lack of any and all online modes. Multiplayer is a strictly local affair, which is fine by me, after I was called a thong-wearing when I asked whether or not my drum-playing buddy was good enough to play Roundabout on Expert. Also, fuck you, you asshole. But I do understand that online play was quite important to a lot of Rock Band fans. Many of them didn't have friends to play with locally, so they resorted to forming bands and playing cooperatively online. Guitar Hero has the aforementioned TV mode, which is addictive but a little money grabby, so I don't get to talk about that much because I already talked about it. The thing is, there's not much else to talk about in terms of Guitar Hero Live's modes and features. There's obviously stuff missing from previous iterations, the biggest thing being the omission of bass and drums, but practice mode is also missing, which is strange as I would think that this is a game that kind of needs it. The difficulty spike between advanced and expert is a little too steep, and a practice mode would have allowed us to make that transition a lot easier, but alas, 'twas not to be. The old studio mode is absent too, you know, that one where you can make your own songs. Yeah, I don't miss it that much either. It was fun playing MIDI covers of Pokemon battle themes or Ishiden no Hana, but, well, no one's gonna miss it, I don't think. Obviously, considering everything is either an FMV or a music video, character customization is OUT THE WINDOW! I'm not worried about this one too much either, but making characters, dressing them up, and choosing their instruments was for some people a core part of the experience. Not me, I fucking hated it. No matter what I did, my character would always look like a disfigured cross between Axl Rose and a zombie. So in this instance, I think it's a tie. Rock Band 4 had a bunch of stuff cut, but also had some cool new modes added, especially Brutal Mode. Meanwhile, Guitar Hero Live is addictive, but there aren't many modes in the first place. And now for the final verdict. I'm gonna admit that it was pretty close, but after some serious thinking, which is rare in my case, a clear winner soon presented itself. Drumroll please. Rock Band 4! It's not by much, but in my books, Rock Band 4 is the superior music rhythm title. While Guitar Hero Live tried to innovate by introducing a new guitar peripheral and streaming service, Rock Band 4 most impressed me with its backwards compatibility and expressive features. Plus it has drums, which means it automatically wins. But do take this video with a grain of salt. My opinion is somewhat biased. I've always been a Rock Band guy, and probably always will be, but you need to think about which game best suits you. If you're a solo guitar player who's into new music and doesn't want to spend much on DLC, Guitar Hero Live is a pretty good choice. However, if you want an excellent local multiplayer experience and not be limited as to how many times you can freely play a song, or if you like drums, bass and vocals, then Rock Band 4 is probably a better choice. Or if you're a rich bitch, or if you live in Australia and are extremely intimidated by the $500 asking price, well, your only option is Guitar Hero, honestly. Harmonix? Why do you hate us so? But the fact is, both of these games are great. I've had fun with both of them, and while I prefer Rock Band 4 for the most part, I cannot recommend these games enough. They both bring us back to the days of yesteryear where we crowded around a TV and wailed away on plastic instruments for hours at a time. A trend that dominated our lives for a few years, and then just seemingly stopped. I, for one, am really excited to see where both Rock Band 4 and Guitar Hero Live go from here, as neither will mark the start of yearly releases for their respective franchises, instead becoming a sort of constantly evolving platform where new songs and features are added on a regular basis. The plastic instrument is back, and hopefully, it sticks around for some time to come. Here are some of my DLC recommendations for Rock Band 4. For a start, I always tell everyone to buy Caravan by Rush. It's incredible on all instruments, especially bass and drums, both of which are extremely fun. In fact, if you're a drummer, pretty much all of Rush's stuff is great, especially Limelight, The Camera Eye, YYZ, and Fly By Night. Both of the songs by Opeth are totally worth it. Heir Apparent is great, but Ghost of Perdition is god tier, especially on drums. An underrated song in my opinion is Dolly Dagger by Jimi Hendrix. I never see this discussed by the rock band community. It's so much fun on guitar. Come on guys. Most of the Coheed and Cambria tracks are pretty great, though my personal favourite is The Broken. Kick-ass drum solo and a pretty fun guitar track too. Please hurry up and add No World for tomorrow. Another one for the drummers, Curl of the Burl by Mastodon is fast and challenging with a ton of drum rolls and kicks to keep you on the verge of dying. Another awesome drum DLC is Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group. Those drum solos though. And for the final one, I've got just one word. Anyway, thanks for watching my review. While I leave this end slate up, here's a fucking fantastic rendition of one of the best songs ever made, as sung by my idiot friend Nick.
And you push as far as I can go. It's all playing the drums and sing along. I got put my trust in you. Pushed as far as I can go. I fall. There's only one thing. I tried.
Aaron, put all of that in.
Fucking McWow.